Welcome to another episode of Let's Be Frank. I am pleased to be joined on this episode by Bansree of Rise Holistic Reiki, who provides the Reiki sessions that are available here at the Bagnall Project in Waterside in Cheshire. Hello, Bansree.
Hi, John.
Hello. Have I pronounced your name right?
You have. Lovely. Yeah, perfect.
Have I pronounced Reiki right? Reiki.
Your dad's
Reiki
name.
or Reiki. We'll get onto that later. That'll be one of our questions, how to pronounce it. There's a little teaser preview there, isn't there, to show it's Reiki. There we go. There's a spoiler for later. So regular listeners will know that before we get into the balls of the piece and talk about Reiki with Bansree, we like to do a quick fire Q&A at the beginning of our podcast to get to know the person behind the service, or the person behind, what can we call it? The person behind the practitioner, double P there, the person
like
behind
that.
the practitioner.
Person behind the practitioner.
Practitioner, yeah. So are you ready to tackle the Let's Be Frank Q&A?
I think so.
Yes?
Let's try it.
Excellent. Are you ready? Favourite sandwich?
Whatever is in my fridge. Probably a cheese, ham, lettuce, BLT kind of number.
Yeah. Classic. Can't go wrong with that. Favourite pizza?
Ooh, American hot, I think. Pepperoni, chili. That is the one I usually go
Bit of
for.
chili. Many jalapenos on there?
Loads of jalapenos. As much chili oil, jalapenos, whatever chilies need to be
Anything
thrown.
to strip your tongue of any taste buds.
I think that just makes it just right. And a bit of, dried chili flakes as well. That'd be lovely.
Sounds nice, actually. I fancy a pizza now after that. What one thing do you own that you should probably throw out?
Oh, it's a good question. I've got a pillow when I was breastfeeding my son. So it's about 10 years old and it's pretty rank, to be honest. And obviously he doesn't need it anymore and I don't need it anymore, but it's just got this sentimental value.
Absolutely.
And I love cuddling it in bed, and it is pretty disgusting. My mum came the other day and she went, why on earth have you got this disgusting piece of nasty cloth stuffing falling out of it?
And it's not really the kind of thing you can sell on Facebook Marketplace or
I'm
eBay,
not really
is it?
gonna
I've
get
already
much
said
for it, am
no,
I?
just sentimental value. It's worth more to you than throwing it out, I think.
I just look at it every now and then and think, I need to throw you out, but I'm not going to.
You're not going to, yeah. And it reminds you of your son being a baby. So that's, keep that, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to.
Right. What is the scariest animal?
I don't think any animals are scary.
What an answer that is. Okay. Apples or oranges?
Apples.
Tea or coffee?
Tea.
Crisps or cake?
Definitely crisps.
Kettle crisps? Or normal
Do you know,
Walkers?
kettle crisps gives me tummy aches. But any other crisps, I cannot live without crisps. And there was the other day, there were no crisps in the house, and I did have a bit of a panic because I need crisps.
Did you make an emergency crisp run to the shop?
No, it was quite late at night, so I don't know what I did.
There's always the garage.
There is a garage, yeah. I just tried, I think I made do with like cashew nuts and pistachios, just didn't hit the spot.
I've done many a crisp run late at night. Yeah, definitely.
Maybe I'll see you in the petrol station one night, John. We'll be getting crisps.
The BP crisps, yeah. And I tend to agree with you on the kettle crisps, actually. They're kind of saturated in that thick fat, aren't they? And you can really tell after you've had a pack of those.
I do really like them, but I do avoid them because there's something not quite right.
Yeah, the idea of them is nice, isn't it? But then
Yeah.
after you finish them, you feel a bit poisoned, don't
Exactly.
you? Cats or dogs?
Oh, controversial, this one. I'm going to say cats because I've got a cat, Nala. So I love cats, and I love the way they kind of just come to you when they want you and they bugger off when they're done. So they're easy, right? Low maintenance. I like their sovereignty. They are sovereign.
They're in black and white, aren't they? You know what you're getting with cats. They
Exactly.
come and be nice to you if they want feeding.
Exactly.
Otherwise, they keep themselves to themselves, and they're deadly hunters.
Yeah.
But they sleep 23 hours a day, aren't they? I love cats as well. Something about that I like, that they're deadly predators. I don't need to practice.
Deadly predators.
Deadly predators.
They're kind of wild, aren't they? They've got this wildness, and they're kind of like this lovely pet when they want to be a pet, but then they're wild as well.
Cats own you, don't they? That's what they say. That we agree with that, actually. At home, we've got a cat called Baker, and we just live in Baker's house. We have to kind of avoid him and
rule
step
the house,
around
don't
him.
they?
Yeah, they do, absolutely.
And actually, cats are very spiritual guardians. So I always see dogs as physical protectors, whereas cats are quite spiritual protectors. So if I'm feeling low, Nala will come to me when I'm doing meditation or like Reiki, self-Reiki. She'll come and sit in my energy and purr away. They can feel that.
Yeah.
And so maybe we need both, but cat for now.
They're good physical protectors as well. I went to a wedding maybe 5 or 6 years ago. No, but it would have been longer actually because I was still living at home. And I fell over and hit my head on. I was drunk. I should clarify there. I fell over drunk, hit my head on a brick wall and cut my eye open. And I woke up to the cat licking the blood off of my face.
Oh,
we think he was probably trying to hungry or something. Yeah, exactly. But we put it down to him being cute and looking after me. But he sat there with me till I came around. But he was probably hungry. I
think it probably just wanted a bit of iron. Maybe it was a bit iron deficient from your blood.
After that hot topic, window seat or aisle seat?
Oh, window seat.
Everyone I've yet to meet anyone that said aisle seat.
My mum needs an aisle seat because she gets really claustrophobic on planes, so she has to have an aisle seat, and she can't do obviously she flies to India quite a bit, but she can't do a non-stop flight. Yeah. She has to stop over in the Middle East. Yeah.
Have you ever asked anyone for their autograph?
I'm too cool for that.
Has anyone ever asked you for your autograph? I should clarify that one.
Unfortunately, maybe after this podcast they will.
Yeah. Have you ever asked someone out on a date and they said no?
I don't think so. I don't really haven't asked people out on dates. I have once and they said yes, so...
100% record. Just bank it and move on.
Not bad, is it?
Yeah. What do you hope happens when we die?
I think our energy body comes out of this physical skin suit that we're in. It goes into a different dimension where we have a little review of our life that we've just experienced, and then have a meeting, maybe have a review of what went wrong, what went right, and then maybe we go into like a little holiday waiting room place where we kind of chill out with a cocktail and then decide whether we're going to come back again.
Which one to go back into.
Where
animal,
we're going to go next.
Fancy a little cat this time, or a fish or something. Yeah.
Jupiter.
Yeah.
Andromeda. I don't know.
That sounds good. Yeah, that sounds good.
That's what I reckon.
Yep, I'll bank that one. That sounds like a good film as well, doesn't it? What is your earliest memory? Taking you to the other end of the life spectrum.
It's being on a plane. It's going back to your aisle seat, window seat question. It was being on a plane when I was about 2 or 3, I think. Probably from my earliest trip to India. And it was obviously because my mum can't do long haul flights, non-stop flights. It was one of the Gulf airlines. So I just remember seeing all these sheikhs on the plane with their headdresses, and it was the most bizarrest thing to a 2-3-year-old. Growing up in Aylesbury to then go to, on this flight.
Did you ask in front of them, Mummy, why have they got those?
No, I don't know if I did.
Dresses and...
I just, like, that memory is seared into my brain. Just seeing them all and then getting a funky little puzzle to play with from the air stewardess.
To keep you occupied.
Yeah.
I think one of my earliest memories is being on a plane. Apparently I was ill the first time they took me on a plane when I was like 2 or 3, and I was throwing up all the way on the way to the airport when my parents didn't want to cancel the holiday. So I was foisted onto this plane and shipped off to Ibiza, being really sick and ill. So I don't really like flying to this day, and I put it down to that. I think that I was made to go on this plane when I was ill.
That is the worst nightmare for a parent, though.
Yeah, I bet, yeah.
I mean, but you don't want to miss out on Ibiza,
Imagine.
though, do you?
I don't think they did.
So I understand that as well.
I don't think they did. The worst the nightmare is getting home and then the kid perking up, and then like you just missed out on your holiday on the way.
That is true.
On the way home.
That is true.
Right. Favourite taste?
Savoury.
Favourite smell?
I am quite into rose at the moment.
Essence of rose or actual roses?
Both.
Yeah.
Like real roses, rose perfume, rose soaps. Yeah, anything rose essential oil.
I suppose doing the Reiki, there's lots of smells and sensual kind of...
Yeah, it is essential treatment because, it's the energy as well, but the feeling of the room, the music, the smell, sound, is all really important. So I do use rose on me. I'll wear rose essential oils before I do a treatment. I'll put rose into my aromatherapy. Depending on the client, like it changes, what I feel they might need.
Spoiler alert, I actually had some Reiki yesterday and Bansree gave me a taster before the podcast today. Was that smell that I could smell rose yesterday? Because that was really nice. That's why I bring it up.
Well, I don't know. I've got another one for that room, which is orange and neroli and something else, which is a nice smell. So maybe it was that. But you might have smelled a bit rose coming from it.
Yeah. Favourite sound?
Crunchy sounds.
Crunchy, not your drum.
I do love my drum, but I love a crunch as well.
Crunchy.
I'm not going to crunch around people though in a Reiki session.
Chocolate bar, crunchy. Your favourite sound is somebody in a crunchy. What is the most used app on your phone that isn't social media?
Spotify.
Excellent. Podcasts or music or a mixture of
both? Actually, more music, but I am discovering more podcasts. So there's a really good. I might do a little plug. Africa Brooks, she's really cool. She's she talks about conversations that are difficult to have and censorship and cancel culture, and I just think they're really important conversations,
engaging
for this time.
ones.
Yeah, that we're living in.
Have you ever checked out the podcast Let's Be Frank?
I have. I listened to Catherine's.
Oh, excellent!
Your Tai Chi lady, because she taught me Reiki level 2 and she taught me Reiki drums. So it was lovely listening to Catherine.
You'll be pleased to know, Bansree, that yesterday I recorded an extra bonus podcast with Catherine because we had to cut short our first one. Yes. Yeah, so we did our 3 for Freedom yesterday. So there's a bonus podcast coming out any day now with Catherine where she talks about her 3 for Freedom. So
I'm so pleased you did that because I was looking forward to
she made lots of notes and she gave such consideration to it. I didn't want it all to go to waste, so we got her back in yesterday before her session, and it's all done, so it's ready any day now to be out. So I finished editing it last night.
Good, I look forward to that.
Okay, if you could go back in history and witness a famous moment in time, what would it be and why?
The JFK assassination, I think, and
Great
I'd watch
answer.
it and I'd be like, what is going on here?
I always say, when people say what superpower do you have, I always say about invisibility, so you can go into places and listen to things in the Houses of Parliament and the White House and find out what's really going on. So imagine if you were invisible on that day that JFK was assassinated behind the scenes to find out what actually happened. It'd be interesting, wouldn't it?
Well, maybe there's a few ghosts hanging around that kind of know what happened.
Let's make friends with the
tap into
ghosts
them,
and see if we
couldn't
can find out what actually happened. Right, the dinner party question. Which 5 guests would you invite to your dream dinner party? Now I'm going to give you some prompters here, so you don't have to think of 5 off the top of your head. You need a funny one first of all, like someone who's going to make people laugh. Who's a funny one? A comedian or someone funny?
Rick Mail.
Oh, what an answer that is!
One,
Rick Mail's brilliant. Yeah, Rick Mail's brilliant. A clever or interesting one, maybe a philosopher or a philanthropist or somebody.
There's a philosopher called Krishnamurti.
Yeah.
Jiddu Krishnamurti, who was kind of started around the 30s, 40s, died in the 1980s, but I love his philosophy. It sort of transcends religions, kind of transcends the new agey spiritual stuff that we know of. He's really inspiring. Yeah,
I think that's why I like Alan Watts so much, actually, because he obviously studied all the Eastern religions and stuff, but he was brought up in, I think his dad was a vicar or a clergyman, so he was brought up with the Christian side of things, but he went out to India and China to study all the Eastern things as well, so he kind of learned, he sort of took his way around the world learning all the different religions and philosophies, and he was a really interesting character. I don't know if you've ever listened to Alan Watts.
I love Alan Watts. And actually Alan Watts I would have there too, because he is so cool. And Alan Watts and Krishnamurti were mates. Like can you imagine being in a room with them having a drink? And I mean, Alan Watts was hilarious too, because he just smoked non-stop. He was an alcoholic, wasn't he? But came out with amazing Zen wisdom.
Do as I say, not as I do. Definitely for that. A singer or artist who you can maybe persuade to do a song and dance routine after the dinner.
I'd have Mike Patton from Faith No More.
Faith No More, and also his other band.
He's got loads, hasn't he? He's in so many things. Mr. Bungle.
Mr. Bungle, yeah. There's another one that, because I'm a big fan of a band called the Melvins, and the Melvins are in a band with Mike Patton. I can't think of what it's called. It's the Phantasmos.
The Phantomas or something.
Yeah, Phantomas, yeah.
Phantomas, yeah.
Yeah, so he's in a band with them. They love Mike Patton. When Faith No More were making it big, he used to bring the Melvins out on tour, and if the crowd weren't nice to the Melvins, they just wouldn't perform, and they'd just scream down the mic and do all kinds of weird stuff.
That's why when you watch the concerts of Faith No More, he's just screaming, right? Because he's pissed
if
with
the crowd have annoyed
all the
him.
crowd.
There's some famous...
The Guns N' Roses crowd,
that's
right?
it, yeah.
He
Guns
didn't like
Roses,
them, did he?
And stuff like that, yeah. There's lots of stories about Mike Patton. If you look on TikTok and YouTube and little YouTube shorts, there's loads of good songs. That's a great choice. Right, a sports star or inspirational person?
I'm not really a sporty person. I don't know. I kind of... I like Goran Ivanisevic.
Yeah, he was good. He was
cool.
left-hander, yeah.
I liked him. He had a good personality. Yeah.
Yeah, did you ever play tennis or just enjoyed watching Goran smash those
I played a bit of tennis at school, but I got really obsessed with Wimbledon at some point in my maybe late teens or something.
Yeah.
You know, when everyone was really like Pete Sampras, the golden years
Pete
of Wimbledon.
Sampras, Boris Becker.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. I love watching Wimbledon every year. It's a tradition in this country, isn't it? And not last but not least, you can choose a bit of eye candy for when the conversation dries up. You can just stare at him.
Well, that's Mike Patton.
Mike Patton as well, yeah. Double Patton.
I'm still going to marry him, you know that.
You're going off the double Patton.
Yeah.
Excellent. Right. What are your ambitions for the next 10 years?
Oh, my goodness. Just to be comfortable, content, happy with myself.
What 3 pieces of advice would you give a 20-year-old Bansree?
Go with your passions. Don't worry about what other people think. Have more fun.
Excellent. Do you think the 20-year-old you would respect the person you've become today?
Yeah, I think so.
Which one thing did you enjoy doing most as a child that you no longer do? Is there something that you're obsessed with and then for whatever reason one day it was just the last time you ever did it and you've never really gone back to it and done it again?
I can't think there's nothing that I haven't picked up again, but dancing is something that I did all the time. I mean, obviously now I just dance in my bedroom mostly, right? But that love of dancing is something that I kind of sometimes, we know we have wistful moments, think, oh, what if I became a dancer?
Yeah.
And, I could have been on top of the pops as a backing dancer. So maybe dancing.
And the follow-up question, why do you no longer do it? Is there any way that you can go back to your dancing?
I do it, but very badly.
Just not on a level.
In my head, I'm like the best.
Yeah. Ballet dancer. Was it ballet or disco pop?
Just,
Headbanging, if you like a bit of Mike Patton.
Headbanging, I'm really good at. Air guitar, I'm really good at. Yeah.
What phrase or sound would you want used on your headstone to best summarise you and your life?
That's really hard. I can't even get through life, let alone know what's going to happen when I'm dead. Bansree was here. That's it.
Bansree was here. I like that. Was here with E-R-E. I like it.
W-O-Z-E-R-E.
So that leads us on nicely to the reason for your visit with us today, to discuss all things Reiki. Now, thanks to Bansree, I mentioned a bit earlier that I actually had a teaser session yesterday. And so I'm not as wet behind the ears as I was 2 days ago. But for those that don't know as much about Reiki as me, obviously I'm now an expert, having had one session. How do you pronounce it, first of all? We discussed it earlier. It's not
Reiki. It's Ray.
Reiki.
So Ray as in ray of light and Ki, K-I.
So that's Reiki.
Reiki.
So what is Reiki? The golden question.
The golden question. Reiki is an energy healing modality. It's a form of hands-on healing. And it's quite a mysterious thing to talk about, actually. And that's why I wanted you to experience it. It's quite an experiential thing. And, people are familiar with things like reflexology and acupuncture. Yeah. And so if I was going to describe Reiki to somebody, I would say it's kind of like another level of those kind of modalities because they work on the energy body. And we are more than just the physical body. We've got energy running through us, around us. We've got an energy field. And as we move through life, we pick up a lot of feelings, experiences, traumas, stresses. And what Reiki does is bring in the Reiki energy, which is a Japanese term, and it translates as universal life force energy. Yeah. So when that energy is flowing through us, it can clear blockages and stagnation in the energy field and in the physical body and make us feel better. I mean, how did you find it, John?
I felt better afterwards. I felt nice and relaxed, like a warm glow on me afterwards. So it was. I'm glad I did it. Definitely.
Good. You looked really peaceful.
Oh, excellent. Yeah.
You had to wake me up. Did you have a little nap? I felt really bad waking you up.
I was kind of in that in between state. I was sleeping and awake, so my eyes were kind of a little bit open, but I was very relaxed not quite asleep, but the nice moment before you fall asleep.
It's that in between state, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And it is deeply restful, and I think that's what's so beautiful about Reiki is this energy that flows through to the client, puts them into a state of deep relaxation, and it's from that deep rest that the body can start healing, get clarity, and feel good, have a nice, warm, lovely, fuzzy glow about them. Yeah.
How did you first discover Reiki yourself then, Bansree?
So after my daughter was born, she was born in 2015, so she was my second baby, and it wasn't that long. What's the age gap? It's only about 2 years between my two kids. Yeah. I just felt really, you know, how it is after you have a baby, you're tired, you're exhausted, you know, sleep deprived, but it just kept going on. And I dismissed it as being just part of being a, you know, mum with 2 small children.
Yeah.
But then I realised that something wasn't quite right. And finally, after a bit of struggle, managed to get a diagnosis of thyroid autoimmune disease.
Yeah.
So my thyroid, which is in our throat, it's a gland that produces hormones, kind of balances other hormones in the body, wasn't working well. So, you know, it was incredible amounts of fatigue and exhaustion, anxiety, pain. And I'd also had sort of periods of depression in my life as well, from my teenage years to my 20s. So it was all kind of just muddling up together. Yeah. And when I got the diagnosis, they said that I had to be on a hormone replacement, basically thyroxine, for the rest of my life. Yeah. Which I didn't want to accept. I didn't want to take something for the rest of my life. And my background is pharmaceuticals. I've got a bit of a science background. I worked in the pharmaceutical industry. And while allopathic medicine has a place, I could sort of intuitively see from studies and case studies and patients and things that some of these people were, you know, there's more going on in the body than just taking a drug and just fixing things, you know. And so part of my process to getting better was looking at alternative modalities. So yoga, meditation, nutrition, all those kinds of meditation. And Reiki was one of them that came along. And I had a session and I kind of just got hooked, and Reiki found me, I think.
Was that with Catherine?
No, it wasn't with Catherine. I had a couple of sessions. There's quite a few Reiki people around the area, actually, when you start digging. So there was a lady in High Wycombe, and then I had a second session with a lady in Chalfont St Giles, and then just loved Reiki. I couldn't get it out of my head, you know, what had happened, what was going on in my body. It kind of blew open a whole load of questions about universe and our place and, you know, what we are as human beings, how we interact with the world, how we interact with our bodies, all that kind of stuff. As I say, Reiki finds you. So there was a course actually here in the Bagnall Centre, run by a lady called Serap, and that was 2017. So I did my training here. Might have been in the room next door actually. And that was Reiki level 1 and 2. And then I repeated level 2 with Catherine, like a year or 2 later. Yep. And then had Reiki level 3 in 2020 during the lockdown, remotely. We can come to that later on. So I'm trained up to Reiki level 3, which is kind of master level, but I don't really like using master too much because it's, you know,
we're still learning,
aren't we? Yeah, you've got to be humble. We're still learning. And that's how Reiki's come to me, and it's primarily a spiritual practice. Yep. So a lot of Reiki is about self-healing. It's a mindfulness practice. You're immersing yourself in the energy, understanding the energy, how you relate to the energy. So that, first and foremost, that's Reiki is about the self and healing the self.
Okay. How can Reiki help people then? What are the benefits?
Loads of things. Helps with physical problems, pain, illnesses, helps with mental health. I get a lot of clients that have anxiety, depression, you know, going through life challenges, stressful situations, grief. It helps with cancer as well, chemotherapy. So hospitals and hospices have Reiki practitioners. There's a few big hospitals in London, St George's, St Thomas's Hospital, that have actually Reiki teams on their cancer wards.
Awesome. Yeah,
like anything and everything, really. Lots of things. There's nothing that it wouldn't help with.
Okay. How is a Reiki treatment given? How does it feel? Obviously, I can answer that.
You can answer that one.
I can a little bit, but
how did it feel for you?
Relaxing, nothing to be worried about. Felt very at ease. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's what it does. It's really relaxing. So when Reiki, when you have Reiki, when you experience it, when the energy is flowing through you, what it does is puts you into a state of rest, and that activates the parasympathetic nervous system. So we are, in this Western modern world, we are stressed, we're, busy, we've got so much stuff going on, we're stuck to our phones, there's so much information going on. That's just on a normal day. And then if people have gone through a lot of trauma, if there's stresses, if there's illnesses, then that is another burden that just takes a lot of space in our energy body and our nervous system. And our nervous system is like the interface between the subtle energy world and the physical body. Yeah. takes a load of stuff, right? And so Reiki will activate the parasympathetic nervous system. Like you yesterday were so relaxed, you know, you were twitching. I don't know if you realised there were a few twitches, but that's your body just releasing energy and
energy.
tension in the cells and the tissues and the muscles. So it will, you know, you're relaxing.
Yeah.
But because it's quite quick bursts of release, then it can twitch. So yeah, clarity afterwards, you know, you feel, you know, after the treatment, I mean, in the treatment, you feel relaxed, you can feel energy, you can see colours. Like I had another client yesterday and she saw lots of colours.
Yeah.
It's different for everyone. But when you're finished and you finish the treatment, you can feel clearer in the head, a bit more positive, you feel calmer, you have more awareness. Did you feel any of those
Well,
things?
can do better than that, Bansree, because I had 2 guitar lessons earlier today and my students both said to me, "You're in a good mood today.
Well, are you not
you're really
normally
happy."
in a good mood?
I know, exactly. I could have taken
it.
I could have taken it as a negative, couldn't I? But they said you're in a crazy mood today, mucking around whilst we were singing and playing guitar and stuff. So it set me in a good headspace, definitely, today. So are there any side effects from a Reiki treatment?
No, no side effects. It's safe, it's gentle. I mean, children can have it, pregnant women can have it. As I said, it's used in hospices, palliative care. So it really helps patients that are in the dying process because it gives so much comfort and relaxation to the body. And, you know, if you want to go into the spiritual dimension, then I guess someone at the end of their life might be thinking about those things. So it adds that element there to it. The only thing I would say, and perhaps it's not spoken about so much, is it's not a side effect, but if we are carrying a lot of stress, an emotional burden, a Reiki treatment can release that. So, you can have after Reiki treatment feel quite emotional. Tears can come out. I've had clients crying during the treatment, before the treatment, or straight after the treatment. And I always see that as a really good sign because we're releasing energy and toxins that we don't need anymore through tears. You know, even if there's a few days of feeling quite low, that's okay. It's that old saying, you know, you've got to feel it to heal it, which is kind of common in the healing world. But you've got to feel it to heal it. It has to flow. It's like water. It has to
like a release valve, isn't it? You need to turn on a release valve. My colleague Jenny actually said when she heard that I was getting a Reiki session that her mum had it done. She cried. So that is quite. I was expecting.
My mum cries as well. She refuses to have it though. She doesn't want to feel it to heal it. Does she?
Absolutely. Get her a t-shirt. How often would someone need Reiki treatment if they think that it's something that might be of benefit to them?
I would recommend having a regular treatment. I don't prescribe, you know, you have to come once a week or once a month. It's obviously up to the individual, what they're comfortable with, what they're, you know, is feasible for them. But regularity is best because if we've gone through, you know, a lot of life, a number of years, we build up a lot of layers of muck, you know, like if it's a dirty window, you've got a dirty window, you know, you're going to have to clean it and give it a good scrub. I might need to spray it a bit. You might need to get the Mr. Sheen out. So it's the same with Reiki. You need a few sessions to start clearing energy out of the system and feeling those benefits. So a one-off session's not going to be this cure. You know, I'm not going to say that, but it might be, it might ignite something like it did for me, you know, ignited something within me. Does
it drain you as the practitioner too, sort of when you're doing the Reiki sessions? Is it?
I get asked this a lot actually, and the short answer is no. No, it doesn't drain me because it's not my energy. Reiki is universal life force energy, so it's the energy that's in us, around us, in this universe, on this planet. It's everywhere. Yeah. So when I'm connecting to Reiki, essentially I'm connecting to what is already within and what is already within my client, and we're connecting with each other. There's no separation. So that sensation, that force is actually really powerful and beautiful. And I describe it as love.
Yeah, that makes sense. It does.
Yeah, so that's what we're connecting to. So it's not draining, it's wonderful.
So you're putting all the positivity into there, and it's not the negativity coming back into your waves of positivity. And
negativity or, you know, like kind of those energies might move out.
Yeah.
And so sometimes that can make us, you know, can make the client feel tired or emotional, you know, outpourings, or just feel fantastic like you did. You felt good, you know, so it depends. It's all dependable. But no, I don't get drained. I feel good. And it's a loving space to hold clients in, which is just a really beautiful thing.
Nice, safe and welcoming space. Is there anything else Reiki can help with?
Yeah, animals love Reiki. like pets, I give Reiki to my cat. Pets, because animals are so like pure, they don't have, they're not carrying loads of shit. They're just kind of pure. They're full of unconditional love. So they don't need very much, you just give them a little blast and then they're done kind of thing. We humans have a lot more stuff going on. So animals, horses, there's actually like a whole discipline called equine Reiki.
Yeah.
Plants, can Reiki your plants.
Yeah.
I think I need to Reiki my plants if you're dying. But plants love Reiki. Food, you can Reiki your food and water. I Reiki my phone sometimes if it's like Reiki that.
Yeah, well, Jenny that I mentioned a minute ago, she said her dog's had a Reiki session before, so I didn't know that kind of thing.
Yeah, but I can actually, I sometimes send Reiki out to get me a car parking spot. That works. Does work.
Does it really?
Yeah.
Just sending good vibes out into the universe.
It annoys my husband. He's like, how the hell? And sometimes I'll even get someone give me a little parking ticket and say, here you go, I don't need it anymore. I
get parking anxiety whenever I go to new places. I'm like, I drive my friends crazy. I'm like, is there any parking there? Where can I park and stuff? So that they know to send me the parking details ahead of the game.
I'll send you Reiki.
Yeah,
I'll program some Reiki into
give me some mobile
parking.
Reiki. Now we've actually got a bonus question. When you arrived today, our new administrator, Courtney, came up with a good question. I mentioned that I was going to be doing a podcast with you. So she said during lockdown, I think one of her friends said she'd had a remote Reiki session. Is that something that can be done, or was her friend pulling her leg?
It can certainly be done. And lockdown is when a lot of us Reiki practitioners started offering remote Reiki. So Reiki, you don't need to you could be in the Bahamas, John, and I could give you Reiki from here. Yeah. I mean, you probably won't need Reiki in the Bahamas, would you?
Mind's blown. Mind's blown. She actually said, Courtney, I don't know if I'm betraying a confidence of her friend, but the person that was receiving the Reiki just went out and did some shopping and stuff and just let the women carry on talking to her while she was out and about, and she didn't actually sit there and get the session done. And I said, well, that's just a waste of money, isn't it, really, if you're paying a Reiki practitioner to...
I would recommend, so when I have done remote Reiki sessions, I recommend that they lie there on their bed or on a couch or in a chair, just as we would be doing a normal session. Yeah. So if it was a remote session with you, you would lie in your bed in your house, and I would just give you a quick phone call, or we can Zoom or whatever, and just have a normal check-in, like in a normal treatment, have a chat. How are you? What, anything going on? And then you lie down, and I send Reiki from where I am. And you receive it. And what's the most mind-blowing thing is my clients will say, I felt this, I felt that, I saw this. And I actually also get loads of sensation remotely. Yeah. I don't know why that is something about that space. And maybe you're not so worried about the client in front of you so much. So I get a lot of sensation. But Reiki, because it's energy has no bounds. Physical distance or buildings are not a barrier, because energy just flows to where it goes. It's the power of intention. Yeah. So it'll go to you, because I'll make a connection to you and hold that intention, and the energy will flow. There is a lot of mystery behind it. There is, you can talk about quantum theory, and I think Einstein called it spooky action at a distance or something, if you want to go into that way of explaining it. Or, it's something that science hasn't really caught up with yet, but I'd love it when it does. There's
lots of stuff that science hasn't caught up with, like cell memories and stuff, like when you eat certain foods, what makes a cell a toe cell or a finger cell or a nose cell, and we don't understand how that all works, do we? So when you're taking on board animal cells, there's a certain cell memory, and when you're eating, there's a whole thing. There's a guy called Sadhguru that I listen to. He's a spiritual guy. Yeah, so there's lots we don't know, isn't there?
There's like a divine design out there, isn't there, really? And I think that I think science can get close to that. And I think that's what's really exciting, because for me, spirituality and science are quite similar. And my, I'm Indian, so the Vedas, the Vedic scriptures, which are our spiritual scriptures, are actually really scientific. Yeah. They talk about the science of spirituality, and it's sort of, maybe we're coming back to that kind of stuff.
And how can people find out more? Do you have a website or social media you want to plug while you're here with me today? What's the best place to find out the information?
So I have got a website, which is www.riseholistic.uk. And I'm also on social media. I'm on Instagram, rise_holistic,
Yeah.
I think. On Facebook too. So if you type in Rise Holistic, I should come up.
If they're interested in getting a Reiki session, they can just contact you on there, can they? Or is there a better way of contacting you?
Contact me via my website or my social media. You can send me a message.
Yeah.
Or, you know, if you're coming into the Bagnall Project, just liaise with someone there and I'm sure they can
Absolutely.
connect me.
That's next on my sheet. People can also inquire via the Bagnall Project and we can put you in contact with Bansree. Right. That concludes the section on Reiki.
Thank you, John.
No, not a problem at all, unless there's anything else you've got to add. No? We've covered
good.
all of the bases, have we? Excellent. Good to hear. So that leads us on to how we like to usually close down our podcast with our 3 for Freedom section. So regular listeners will know all about this, but if there's anyone new tuning in for the first time, just to find out from Bansree, you brought the Bansree masses along with you this week. It's a book, a movie, and an album, a song, or an artist that has inspired you during the following periods of your life. As a child, we're talking like 6 or 7, 8 years old, as a moody yet impeccably cool teenager, or as a moody yet undeniably cool adult. So we'll start with the childhood. So as I said, we're thinking sort of 6 or 7 years old. Is there a book that you used to love reading that you couldn't get enough of, or a series of books? Or
I love Roald Dahl books.
Yeah.
And I love George's Marvellous Medicine because I remember making a medicine with my friend.
Yeah.
Like George did. It's like pulling out everything from the
Flowers
cupboards and bleach and...
Yeah, oh dear.
Oh dear.
Bleach, yeah.
Like there was dodgy stuff going into this concoction. And then we made it, we had fun, and then we're like, well, what do we do with this now? So I chucked it onto the grass, onto the lawn, in the back garden, and it burnt the grass. And my parents weren't very happy about that.
Like you didn't chuck it on someone else, didn't you, with the bleaching and stuff?
Yeah, chucked on my sister.
Roald Dahl's got a lot to answer for there. He could have
He
had
was very dark,
manslaughter
wasn't
on
he?
his
He was really dark,
case,
which is what I really love. I love the twits as well. But we live so close to the museum, don't we?
Yeah, we do, yeah, Missenden there. Have you ever taken your kids to there?
Yeah, and his old house is round there. It's really beautiful.
Yeah. Well, you don't know the illustrious company that you're keeping to. So there was, in our family folklore, my nan said that we were related to him. So we've got some Norwegian roots on my nan's side, and she used to tell us that we were related to Roald Dahl. So
do you think you were?
I don't know. I've been doing the family tree stuff. She wasn't one for making stuff up, to be honest, my nan, but I can't find it so far. As I say, I think he was from Norway, and there is some Norwegian on the family tree that I managed to find when I got back to certain generations, but yeah, nothing that I've been able to find so far.
Oh, that'd be so interesting if you did.
It would, wouldn't it? But the gutting thing for me, when I was at school, I used to tell everyone this, and then the supermodel Sophie Dahl came out, and all my friends were like, "Your cousin's really attractive." I was like, "It's not really my cousin," but and they used to think it was hilarious to try and get me to say, "Oh, do you think she's attractive?" I was like, "She's all right." It's like, "You fancy your own cousin," and stuff like that. So I was like, technically, I haven't found out that she is my cousin. So it led me down to...
So you shot yourself in the foot by saying you were related, and then you were fancying your cousin.
Sophia Dahl was dead to me, kind of. But there's a link to Roald Dahl maybe along the line. If any historians or genealogists are out there, if they could help me try and track that down, get in contact via the Bagnall Project. So, a movie. Was there a movie you used to watch when you were a child that drove everyone mad, that you used to put it on repeat over and over and over and over again?
Not really. Well, so when this is quite hard, this whole exercise last night, when I was sitting through this, trying to figure out these, movies and books. So the film I've got from my childhood is probably not a child-friendly film.
Really?
It's Commando with Arnie.
Yeah,
that classic.
That's good, yeah.
Like, obviously it's not a film that a kid watches, but my uncle was a bodybuilder, like a national champion bodybuilder. And so he would come to my house and link up his top loader VHS with my dad's one and like pirate all these movies all the time. And Commando was one that I was kind of allowed to watch one evening. Yeah. And it just blew my mind. I just loved it. Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, it's violent, but what? I watched a few clips last night on YouTube, while I was thinking about this. And it's so bad. It's so good.
It's good. Yeah, I love Commando.
It's amazing, isn't it?
When we were
steel drums.
My parents separated, so we used to go and stay with my dad every Sunday, and part of our routine would be on the way back from the pub Dad would take us to the football in the morning, and then the pub. And on the way home, we got to stop at the video shop, and he'd get an Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone film. So we went through all of the Arnie films, and obviously the famous line from Commando, "I can take you, John." I can take you, John.
I forgot.
I go out at the end, he throws the pipe for him. You need to let off some steam. He throws the pipe for him. I know Commando, it's a classic. Yeah,
that scene is amazing, isn't
you
it?
need to let off some steam.
And he just goes.
That was the guy that said to him, "I can take you, John." Yeah, I love Commando.
We're gonna go home tonight and watch Commando, aren't we?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I've got it at home. Yeah, I've got an Arnie box set. It's got Predator, Conan
Predator
the Barbarian, and Commando on it.
I love them.
Classics.
Yeah, very good.
We went through them all. Is it Red Sonja or Red?
Oh yeah, Red Sonja. Was that with Brigitte Nielsen?
Yeah, there's loads of classics. Arnie films, aren't there? Loads of classics. Right, an album, a song or an artist as you were a young wheeling 6 or 7 year old. Is there a song you used to sing over and over again?
I loved Madonna, so it'd probably be like
Proper Don't Preach.
It'd probably be Like a Virgin, and not knowing what I was singing would be the one that I kept singing over and over. I loved Madonna. Yeah, that 80s era of Madonna. She was amazing.
It was quite bad actually when you think about it, because when we were like 10 or 11, Madonna had that Justify My Love one, and that was quite naughty, wasn't it?
And then she had that sex album, didn't she?
Yeah, the book. There's a book she put out.
Yeah, all erotica and stuff like that.
And I think probably betraying someone's confidence here, but one of the other people I interviewed on the podcast, Richard, we interviewed about Queen Elizabeth for our Jubilee project, and I don't know, for whatever reason we got talking about Madonna, and he said he actually had a copy of the book Sex, and he showed me the book. It's pristine copy. It's a proper big thick hard book. Yeah, it was. It fell open at certain pages, but and we were just saying, because at the time she'd turned 60, I think, or 70. How old would Madonna be now? Probably 60, I guess.
Oh, she's something's weird.
And she's recently done another photo shoot with a lot of nudity and stuff, hasn't she, to embrace her body again? So. Yeah, that Justify My Love one, just thinking about it now, it's quite inappropriate for children, the way she sort of sung the verses and stuff.
I think there's loads of inappropriate stuff now, though, really. Don't think much has changed.
No, I guess so. You want your artist to be edgy of sorts, I guess, don't you? We embrace it to some degree.
Yeah.
Right, moving on to the next developmental stage of your life, Bansree. So as a
still
moody
in developmental stage, John.
as a moody yet impeccably cool teenager, when you thought you knew it all and you were the bee's knees, whose posters did you have on the wall first of all? Which band or artist?
Well, Mike Patton, Faith No More, Nirvana. All the grungy stuff that was going on. A bit slightly in the metal stuff as well. Pantera. Yeah.
5 Minutes Alone and all that. Yeah. Broken. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a Nirvana fan, so I was like 13 when all the grunge stuff happened, so my walls was covered in posters of Nirvana and Soundgarden until I moved out. I think when I was in my mid-20s, all the Nirvana posters were still on the wall. I was gutted when I came home and my mum took them all down. I was like, what are you doing? Bit of my childhood.
You spend ages curating that.
I know you do, don't you?
You put them up and you admire them, and
I can sort of in my mind's eye, I can probably close it and picture them all now. I can see my wall and where all the different pictures.
I think I've still got some posters. I've still got some, and so this is the thing. I was like, do I give a book or do I just talk about like Melody Maker and Enemy?
Yeah.
And I've still got some of them.
You remember Raw magazine? I've still got all of them. Still got all of those.
Have you got all of them?
Yeah. All my old magazines are in a crate somewhere. But obviously with the Nirvana posters and the Soundgarden ones cut out, so half the pages are missing.
Oh, that's
amazing.
Kerrang
as well. Yeah, I never really liked Kerrang. I was more of a Raw man.
Kerrang was a bit...
It was metal-y, wasn't it?
Well, it also didn't have much stuff in it. But yeah, Raw was much
I never really liked Pantera. At school, there was a kind of a split between the grungers and the metalers, and they all liked Pantera. And kind of Faith No More, actually. The guy that liked Pantera, he liked Faith No More. And us grungers were into Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden and all that.
Yeah, it was all... I remember this, like the Saturday Daily Mail or something. There was this centrepiece, and it was dividing up all the like the grungers, the indie kids, the metaler kids, and it was like this sort of how to detect them in a festival.
There is a kind of uniform that you wear, don't you? I was saying to my colleague Zoe the other day, that's one thing I didn't like about the subcultures that you went into when you found those new musical genres, that there's a certain way that you kind of drawn to those subcultures because you're allowed to be yourself, and they embrace the individuality and and you kind of found yourself in those kind of musical identities and stuff. But there's a certain rules, even when you get to those musical identities, you've got to dress this, you've got to wear this, you've got to wear those trainers, you've got
you
to
think
have
you're
your hair
being really
like this.
unique and stuff.
Yeah.
But like I remember this wonderful friend of mine, Kath, at school, when she didn't really participate in dressing up as a goth or a grunge or something, because she was like, you all want to be different, but you all look the same because you've all just got the uniform trundling around, you know.
I've been given that quite a lot of thought about it. You kind of, you get drawn into it because of the wonder of individuality, and you think you're being something special, and then there's all these other rules when you get into those subcultures. That's what the song School by Nirvana was about, actually. I went back and looked at it again the other day, and if you think about it in those terms, it's that he thought he'd found this new world of punk rock and, you know, all these bands and stuff, but when he got there, he found out it was almost as restricting as where it come from, because there's all these rules of what you got to do, what you got to say, what you got to believe in, what you got to do. So the freedom wasn't there. What you should listen to, what you shouldn't listen to. Then the freedom wasn't there.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because now you can see that happening with social media, but there wasn't, you know, we didn't have social media or internet then, but it was still occurring. It was still very easy to get into those.
It's amazing how it happened, isn't it? The schools, each school had the grungers and the metalers and the people like rap and stuff, and how it organically kind of, I guess it would have been the magazines, wouldn't it? Like Raw and Kerrang and stuff, and then Enemy and Melody Maker.
They were weekly, weren't they? So you get into that. I like my cousin. He does a similar job to you, actually. Does like podcast, you know, music training and things. But he was really into like garage and jungle and reggae and stuff, which I liked too. But because I liked metal, I wasn't allowed to. He put notes on his door going, "No metalers allowed." And then in brackets, apart from Guns N' Roses.
Have you seen, speaking of podcasts earlier, Justin Hawkins rides again? He's got a YouTube channel. So the guy from The Darkness is really good. Oh, yeah. And he's a really likeable character, actually. I didn't really used to like the band and stuff, but he's got this YouTube channel where he looks at songs and musics and classic songs and stuff like that. And he had his post today, actually, was do you remember a band called Gore? They used to dress up in like monster outfits, and they were kind of a metal kind of group. And they've put out a statement saying that, and he sort of looked into that in his latest podcast, saying that music should be for everyone, and that even the metal genre is a bit, because they're getting a lot of newcomers looking into metal at the moment, because Metallica were in Stranger Things, and a lot of the traditional metalers are saying we don't want these new people, you know, if you've come in through Stranger Things, you're not allowed in. So he's done a whole podcast about how those kind of genres should be embracing, if that's an entry point for them to like metal, they've come in through Metallica, and then you get the opportunity to, you know, educate them as to all these other different kinds of metal, and it should be a good thing that new people are coming into the genre, and not a bad thing, and that you're not allowed in here because you've come in through a TV program and you only like Metallica
through mainstream stuff.
Yeah, through mainstream stuff. Yeah, and they haven't found it organically, and there's a certain snobbery about it in metal music. One of the summations he came to was that metalers aren't really embraced by the other genres, so they've got this kind of them and us mentality, and they don't like other people coming in because of that, and that they've never been embraced by the other genres, and they're kind of outsiders somewhat. Maybe.
I mean, I might be generalising, but metalers do sort of strike me as the ones that are kind of on the edge of things, you know. It's like the waste bin of like, what genre should I go into? And I was there as well. But yeah, that's weird if people are saying you shouldn't like it.
Yeah, there's a big thing, because you've come in through Stranger Things, you know, you're not allowed to like metal, you're not allowed to like Metallica and stuff like that. Who was your entry-level metal band then? Was it Faith No More that kind of...
It was Faith No More, and that was, you know, the album artist was Angel Dust.
Yeah.
Because I was about 30, probably about 12 or 13 maybe, when that came out, and it was so different to anything else I'd ever heard. Yeah. Because before that, it was quite a lot of just pop, and, you know, you're a tweenie, so you just listen to pop and stuff, and then suddenly...
Vanilla Ice and MC Hammer, wasn't it?
And I love that too,
stuff. Yeah.
And Mike Patton would always cover them, wouldn't he? Like, he would do a little Vanilla Ice,
it doesn't mind a cover version.
So yeah, that sound was kind of mind-blowing and different, and
then Pantera was kind of the metal band at the time. I suppose Metallica were around, but they were never cool, weren't they, when we were that age?
I like loads of stuff. Like, you know, I like Metallica, I like Megadeth, I like Pantera. I liked it when it got quite metally, but I think my go-to was always things like Faith No More and Nirvana. And
the rock end of things.
Yeah.
And there's more, I always used to say there's more, music's heavier when there's melody to it, isn't there? Some of the metal music was a bit too riffy and there's no melody behind it. But I think Ozzy Osbourne famously said for something to be heavy, it needs to have a melody that's twisting and
and like Black Sabbath are amazing, and they have amazing melodies, and a lot of metal does have melodies, and that's why Faith No More, because they would bring in metal and then like poppy stuff and like choral stuff, like it was all sorts. It was absolutely everything because I'm quite eclectic and like different things that kind of they were like that.
Did you ever check out Roots by Sepultura?
Yes.
That's because all the tribal elements and the tribal drums into that.
Sepultura,
I was saying that to someone yesterday that I used to like Sepultura because they mixed in the tribal Brazilian
they took their roots, didn't they, which was really important where they were from. And like I didn't even know they were from, because you just assume they're all American, you know, but they really, really did bring in their Brazilian
and
roots.
it just works, his Brazilian accent with the metal music.
Yeah, they were really good.
It's really good. I loved Sepultura. A book, were you reading as an impeccably cool teenager? A lot of the people I raised this to, they said they don't remember reading any books when they were a teenager.
Do you know, I remember reading books as an early teenager, loads of Nancy Drews and Hardy Boys and stuff like that. And so that's why I was like, I don't remember what kind of inspired me or stuck with me. But then I remembered a book called Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret by Judy Blume. A book that probably only girls read when I was a teenager, but it was this story about a girl, obviously Margaret, who just going through puberty, like having periods and breasts starting to grow and boys and those things that we all go through as teenagers. And she had a dialogue going with God. So she would speak to God, even though her parents weren't religious. She was brought up as an atheist. She just started spontaneously speaking to God. And I think that's really interesting. It was like this, you know, if you feel a bit lonely when you're a teenager, you feel a bit isolated, a bit lost, you know, you do, who do you speak to? You kind of, even if it's not God, you don't label it as God, you kind of putting a question out of something or someone's answering you, whether that's your kind of your wiser self somewhere or a guide or something.
Me and Catherine were saying this yesterday. She said a lot of her eyes were open to what happened in romance and dating boys and stuff, because they kind of read those books, the romance novels and stuff, and she said she feels really embarrassed and like they're really cringy now. But I said it at the time, there was nowhere else that they could go and get that information and have those conversations with people, because it wasn't as open and honest as it is these days. You can have those conversations, and I said to her, you had to find out that information somewhere, and she kind of agreed towards the end. She said there was nowhere else we could go and have those conversations, where we just have to devour these romance books to find out how you kiss and, you know, all this kind of
And that's why
stuff.
Judy Blume was a really good author for teenagers, because she explored those subjects that were kind of taboo or not spoken about in those days. And
it's embarrassing to talk to about your parents, wasn't it?
You can't. I couldn't speak to my mum about my periods. Now you can. It's all, and I would do that with my daughter. But, and it's a cultural thing as well and a generational thing. But she brought those aspects of growing up into lovely prose and novels. And there's another one called Forever, which is really famous, and that's like the first sexual experiences between a boy and a girl. And it was like, oh, you're reading Forever in the playground, like, oh my God, that's really rude. And like, I can't believe but those books were really important for us.
It's like for the same reason, because you weren't having those conversations with your parents, were you? Because it was embarrassing and there's no one at school. There's nothing worse than having those conversations at school. So those books were really important for people in those developmental stages of their lives. Movie-wise, was it Arnie again, or you're going to say Twins or something?
I love Twins.
Twins is good.
God, I've forgotten about Twins. Isn't it? With Danny DeVito. Yeah, I love that. So it is kind of a movie, but also not. It's X-Files. So I was just obsessed, totally obsessed with the X-Files. Yeah. I loved Mulder and Scully, loved their like relationship and the dynamic. It just, this whole kind of otherworldly, alien, supernatural vibe. I just dug that, and that stayed with me basically.
They famously didn't get on that well, did there's all these tales now that I think Gillian was getting more money than him, or she used to take more time getting ready, and it just led to all this conflict on set and stuff.
I think that they filmed it all in Vancouver, which is really highly moist in the atmosphere.
Yeah, and it's bad for her hair, so she has to constantly have her hair treated.
No, but I think they get on well now. I went down this rabbit hole a few years ago, this whole like Tumblr sites and Reddit sites devoted to them still.
And that song by Catatonia.
It's a good rendition.
And Foo Fighters famously did the theme tune for one of the songs. I think it was on the soundtrack. I don't know if it was theme tune, Walking After You.
Yeah, they did. And Nick Cave as well.
Do you like PJ Harvey as well?
I do like PJ Harvey. Yeah.
Cracking. Good stuff. I think that's it for that stage. So on to the third and final stage of your life. We're thinking fairly recent.
Yeah.
Is there a book that you've read recently which has inspired you and you thought, this is beautiful, I want to pass it on to other people and everyone needs to read this?
There's a book that I'm reading. I'm about halfway through, and it's called Empire Land by Satnam Sanghera.
Right.
And he's about our age. He's British Asian like me, and it's his take on colonialism and imperialism and how it shaped not just Britain, but also the world.
Yeah.
And what I really like about it is that, it's raw and it's disturbing.
Yeah.
It's not this kind of rose-coloured, oh, look at the lovely railways that the British built in India and isn't everything wonderful?
Yeah.
Because it's not wonderful. There's actually a lot of trauma still held through that time. And something for me that's come up, when you are a Reiki practitioner, when you are working in these sorts of field, your personal development and healing is also part of it. So I'm in the same journey of healing stuff. And that whole part of my lineage is coming up for me to really look at, to the traumas in my parents and their parents from colonialism, being displaced out of India into Africa and then thrown out of Africa and come here. That displacement of peoples from their land, what that does to people.
And it gives you an opportunity to readdress that and look at it and
heal it, and to understand the history, what really happened. Some things were really shocking because my parents don't talk about it. My grandparents, that generation, don't talk about things because it's still quite recent, when we think about it. Partition and things only happened 75 years ago. So there is this sort of trauma still living, very real. And that's
do they have conversations with you about it now, or do they still not feel comfortable?
I don't think they feel comfortable. My dad, I don't think, has really kind of digested what's going on. And I think a lot of that generation it hasn't dropped in. Yeah. And I think it's our generation doing the work, and for our children as well. And even if you're not Asian, read it. It's a really good book.
Excellent. What's it called again? Just quick.
Empire Land by Satnam Sanghera. Okay. Yeah.
Is there a movie you've seen over the recent couple of years that you think everyone needs to see? Getting a 5-star seal of approval?
I don't know. I find it really hard with movies, actually, because I do like them, but I'm never like, oh my God, this is amazing. I think that what I've written down is I just love Stanley Kubrick, any of his movies. Yeah. So they're the ones that I'll go back and rewatch and find deeper things. And
as an entry level to someone that may not have watched any Stanley Kubrick films, what would you recommend they go in and look at first? What's an easy access?
I would say The Shining.
Yeah.
Well, it's not easy. So it's quite spooky, but The Shining is probably his most famous one.
That was Zoe's pick, actually. The film that she goes back to time and time again, The Shining. Yeah, I
think it's presented as a horror, and Stephen King's, it's an adaptation of Stephen King's novel. But Stephen King was like, this has got nothing to do with my book.
Yeah.
And when I go and watch The Shining, there's so much other nuance and subtleties going on, and also I think this whole commentary on actually America being colonized, the Native Americans being colonized. And so he's so clever with what he uses symbology and artwork and things. It's like, so you can go into this the whole Stanley Kubrick thing and just go on these like journeys with these movies, I think.
And another Johnny as well.
And another John.
I can take you, John. Here's Johnny. Yeah, it's all about John, isn't it?
Gosh, yeah. Any film with John in is a good film.
And funnily enough, when you arrived today, I was talking about my name, wasn't I? Funnily enough.
God, yeah. Maybe you need to find, what does John mean? What's the meaning?
Is that in a metaphorical sense?
No,
or,
it's in like biblical sense.
I don't actually know.
John, was he
he was. Yeah, he was one of the
disciple?
apostles. Yeah, he was one of the original dudes, wasn't he? Like John, there's a whole...
His original dude.
Yeah, one of the Jesus' original dudes. He didn't betray him, I'm sure. So we've done the book, we've done the movie, and what... Are you still sticking with Mike Patton and Faith No More for this recent period of your life, or have you got someone else to surprise us with?
I can't really not. I did listen to a bit of Faith No More last night, but yeah, I think as I get older, and now I just listen to everything. You don't have that obsession with one or two bands that you do when you're younger or a teenager.
Is that Spotify induced, do you think?
Spotify induced, and playlist induced. But I do really like I like Floating Points. If there's someone new, I like Floating Points. His music's really kind of helps me in a lot of ways, whether that's dancing or meditation or focusing.
What's the latest one where Spotify has recommended something that sounds like Faith No More and you've thought, actually, I quite like them, and you've bought the album and you've kind of got into them? Is there anyone that you can think of?
I don't think I have, actually.
No one stands up to Faith No More. When they put a song on after Faith No More, they're like,
who's going to compare to Faith No More?
No one's going to stand up. Maybe the Melvins. But like what it's been, how old is Angel Dust now? Is it 30 years old? I reckon so. Yeah, because Nevermind's 91, wasn't it? So that was 31 years now. So it's got to be probably before that. Angel Dust was just before.
Yeah, I think it's 30
Nirvana
years.
and stuff. Yeah,
still sounds fresh.
Yeah. What was the name of the guitar player? Was it Jim Martin? Jim Martin. There you go.
And then they kicked him out.
And who's the guy with the dreads on the drums?
Puffy.
But him, yeah. He was a touring drummer for Ozzy Osbourne, wasn't he? After
he was.
Faith No More. I remember that.
Yeah.
There you go. I was never that into Faith No More, but only because
you know your stuff.
I know, only because I heard the single only, I think, and then it's only since getting into the Melvins and how highly they rate him and stuff, I haven't ever really gone back and checked out.
Have you checked out Mr. Bungle?
No.
Mr. Bungle was Mike Patton's first outfit, and they're really good. Like the first Mr. Bungle album, it's just called Mr. Bungle, I think. Really fun. It's so out there, and you can't categorize it at all. And it's fun. My kids love it.
Yeah, I don't like fun music, so I might not like that. I'll check it out though.
Check it out. My kids like it.
Yeah, Mr. Bungle. Okay, so there we go. That's all of your choices, I believe, isn't it? We've covered everything there. We've got all three of those periods, all three of those: the book, the movie, and the album, the song and artist. So all that leaves me to do is to thank you for joining us today. It's been very eye-opening and found out lots of information. The stuff that I didn't know about Reiki, and obviously I'm sure a lot of the listeners didn't know anything about Reiki at all. So we've educated and entertained, hopefully, along the way. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you for giving us your time, and you'll be welcome back anytime. If we can think of any other reasons to get you back on board,
thank you, John.
We surely will.
Maybe we can have a metal podcast.
Yes, that is an idea. So I've actually recently started a music podcast where we look at lyrics. It's like based on the top 500 Rolling Stones songs of all time, but. So, music. I'm always up for a music podcast.
Exactly. I'd love to.
What a way to end it, yeah. We'll have to start by reviewing Mr. Bungle's album, maybe, and then go on to Melvin's and Faith No More.
Oh, I'd love that. Good idea. Thank you, John.
Thank you. Very good idea.
Thank you for having me and letting me talk about Reiki love.
So, in closing, where do people go to find you again? Just give yourself another quick plug. So, it's the last thing we leave people on today.
On social media, Rise Holistic. I'm on Instagram and Facebook, and my website's riseholistic.uk.
Excellent. Thank you very much. If you'd like to say goodbye to the listening millions.
Goodbye. Thank you for listening, and I hope you understand a little bit about Reiki.
Yeah.
Might have shed some light on Reiki, and it's just really nice to talk about it and get it out there and feel the Reiki love. Excellent. Hopefully a few people who've listened to this will be interested, and you can contact Bansree on those details or via ourselves. Via the Bagnall Project, you can ring us up or just come in and we'll put you in contact with Bansree. So thank you very much, and good night and God bless. Good night.
The Let's Be Frank podcast is brought to you by the Oasis Partnership, a charity providing high-quality social and psychological support services to improve people's mental health and well-being. We deliver socially inclusive, open access support for the wider communities of Buckinghamshire through pioneering and innovative partnerships and initiatives. Oasis provides free and subsidised health and wellbeing classes and support groups for the Chiltern area, including mindfulness, yoga, Tai Chi, Reiki, fitness, boxing, art and music. Oasis also helps support people to reach their full potential through our substance misuse treatment service, Routes to Work and outreach service. The Oasis Substance Misuse Treatment Service is provided in partnership with Inclusion, part of Midlands Partnership NHS Foundation Trust, delivering 1 recovery bucks. The Let's Be Frank podcast was launched in tribute to the memory of long-term Oasis patron and world-renowned cinematographer Frank Hodge, and is recorded in the Frank Hodge Podcast Studio, our new community podcasting facility launched in his honour.